He is the most arrogant thug on the streets.
Just because someone honked at them from behind, they got out of the car and savagely beat the driver.
They even shoved the security guard who tried to intervene to the ground and arrogantly shouted at the onlookers.
Just when everyone felt helpless against them, a burly man stepped out from the crowd. He loudly shouted for the thug's boss to stop, but the guy charged right at him. Don't let his massive frame fool you. He is extremely agile and nimble. While effortlessly dodging enemy attacks, he delivers fists of justice. This burly man instantly knocked down several people with heavy punches. The lead thug pulled out a dagger, but the big guy didn't care at all, and even deliberately teased him. This man, who made a group of bullies go to sleep obediently and won enthusiastic applause from the crowd, is South Korea's famous beast cop, known as the One-Punch Man, Seok-do. Because he has solved many major cases in recent years with outstanding professional skills, he was transferred to the Seoul Metropolitan Investigation Unit to handle more dangerous and high-stakes criminal cases. Team leader Tae-soo likes Seok-do the most. After all, the case closure rate increased significantly after Seok-do joined the team. To reward everyone, he took out his treasured black sesame pills, giving one to each person. But while he wasn't paying attention, Seok-do ate more than half of them by himself, making Tae-soo angry enough to curse. At this moment, everyone suddenly received a call. A new case had arrived. At the bottom of a hotel, the body of a woman who had fallen from the building was found. The autopsy revealed that the deceased, Sun-hee, had a new type of prohibited substance called hyper in her system. This substance caused her to fall into a coma, and finally, she was thrown from a room upstairs. Since there were no cameras in the hotel corridor, it was impossible to identify the murderer. However, the police interviewed the victim's friends and family and learned that Sun-hee had been to a nightclub called Club Orange the previous night. Seok-do decided to go to this nightclub first to check out the situation. At night, the entrance of the nightclub was crowded with fashionable, beautiful women. Seok-do, looking a bit fierce, attracted the attention of two women. Seok-do, who rarely goes to nightclubs, thought his handsome looks had captivated the two girls and couldn't help but feel a little smug. At this time, a man wearing glasses ran over to greet Seok-do. It turned out this person's nickname was Automatic Door. He could get people into any entertainment venue in Seoul without waiting in line. Under his lead, Seok-do and his colleague Man-jae entered the nightclub. He noticed two people acting suspiciously on the second floor above the dance floor, so he wanted to go up and take a look, but he was blocked by a burly bodyguard guarding the stairs. No matter what Seok-do said, the bodyguard wouldn't let him in and rudely pushed him away, even giving Seok-do a hard slap. How could Seok-do tolerate this? With just one punch, he sent the bodyguard straight to the floor for a nap. Upon reaching the second floor, Seok-do saw clearly that these two guys were conducting an illegal transaction. He followed one of the men into a private room. Two thugs saw a strange man suddenly barge in and take pictures of them with his phone. They instantly got angry and wanted to fight Seok-do, but they were sent to dreamland with a single slap from him. Because the commotion was too loud, two bodyguards rushed over upon hearing the noise. One of them was the bodyguard from earlier, and the result was the same. Face down, fast asleep. Seok-do advised the other one not to be foolish, but the result was the same. Through a thug's confession, Seok-do found his boss, a middle-aged man dancing Gangnam Style, in another private room. The club owner, Sang Cheol, was fiercely pinned to the table by Seok-do, leading to loud accusations from the woman next to him. Sang Cheol was taken back to the police station. Seok-do demanded he explain where the contraband came from, but Sang Cheol acted arrogant. Not only did he refuse to cooperate and explain the situation honestly, but he also cursed at all the police officers. Seok-do felt this guy needed a lesson, and the Room of Truth hadn't been used in a long time. It seemed it was time to reactivate it. So everyone started pretending to clean up. Man-jae climbed onto a cabinet, pretending to wipe the camera with a rag. After he finished wiping, Sang Cheol somehow ended up lying stiff on the table, shivering. He became much more honest after that and spilled everything he knew. It turned out the stuff sold in his nightclub wasn't his either. It was sold there by a Japanese gang member named Hiroshi. Tae-soo decided to take a team to check out Hiroshi's hideout. Even though Tae-soo brought two men along, Seok-do still felt uneasy. After all, they were dealing with Japanese gang members. Inside a house, two gang members suddenly heard the doorbell ring. One of them, holding a knife, approached the door cautiously. As soon as he opened the door, Tae-soo rushed in with his men. Hiroshi, in the inner room, slashed with a knife. Having just consumed the prohibited substance, he was like a madman. The thug on the other side was also quite strong. Tae-soo and his team spent a lot of energy and even used tasers to subdue the two villains. Tae-soo was surprised to find a large amount of contraband hidden in the house, totaling over 20 kilograms. That much contraband is worth over 30 billion won on the black market. Tae-soo was very happy. After all, he led this team and seized so much contraband. Just as he and Seok-do were happily talking on the phone sharing the good news, a black car rammed the police car and stopped by the roadside. 3 masked men got out of the car. They opened the doors and found the people inside had been knocked unconscious. But their target wasn't the people, but the 20+ kilograms of contraband in the car. The 3 men moved with sharp, practiced efficiency. Besides taking the contraband, they also took the dashcam and Hiroshi's phone, leaving no evidence behind. They took the stuff and turned to leave. Just then, Hiroshi suddenly woke up. He recognized the 3 men and shouted for them to take him along. The leader turned back, picked up a metal pipe and smashed it ruthlessly down on Hiroshi. After leaving the crash site, they went to a scrapyard, handed the battered black car to the owner to dispose of cleanly, and then stripped off their clothes and threw them into a fire to destroy them. The leader finally revealed his true face. This muscular man with a sinister look is named Sung Cheol. His agenda for the night wasn't over. Carrying the contraband, he aggressively barged into the Korean branch of the Japanese gang, Ichijogumi. A gang subordinate sensed he was not here with good intentions and tried to stop him, but was kicked into the room by Sung Cheol. In front of all the Japanese gang members, he viciously slapped the man's face. The branch manager Tomo came over to intervene but had his jaw grabbed by Sung Cheol. Watching the 3 men leave arrogantly, Tomo, who didn't dare resist, was so angry he could only smash things to vent his rage. It turned out Sung Cheol and Tomo were partners in trafficking hyper. Tomo was responsible for the supply, and Sung Cheol handled the clients. He had just sealed a major deal, supplying 20 kilograms of contraband to Chairman Jin, worth over 30 billion won in total. Sung Cheol placed great importance on this deal, and the delivery date was in 2 days. So he was furious that the goods were lost while in Tomo's custody, and that he had to clean up the mess. Tomo was also living in fear because these 20 kilograms of contraband were stolen from the Ichijogumi headquarters, and he was afraid the Japanese side would find out sooner or later. But the more he feared something, the more likely it was to happen. The boss of the Ichijogumi in Japan already knew that their contraband had been stolen by their own people in Korea. To recover the loss, he sent the gang's number 1 hitman, Ricky, to Korea to find Tomo and retrieve the contraband. On the day of the deal, Sung Cheol sat awkwardly across from Chairman Jin because Tomo, who was supposed to bring the goods, hadn't shown up. Just as the client was getting impatient, Sung Cheol received a call from Tomo. But what he heard was bad news that made his blood boil. It turned out Tomo already knew the Japanese headquarters had sent a hitman and was so scared he went into hiding overnight with the 20 kilograms of contraband. Although Sung Cheol was furious, he acted as if everything was normal on the surface. He begged the other party for 2 more days. Although Chairman Jin reluctantly agreed, his attitude had started to sour. Having lost face and credibility, Sung Cheol left the room dejected. He swore to find that scoundrel Tomo. Meanwhile, inside the Ichijogumi Korean branch, it was unusually chaotic and busy. The subordinates were rushing to pack up and prepare to evacuate. Suddenly, screams came from outside. A group of people rushed out to check the situation. It turned out Ricky, sent by headquarters, had arrived. This number 1 hitman loves using a katana, so a massacre began. Ricky isn't just dangerous himself. His subordinates are also highly skilled fighters. This team is arguably the most formidable in the Ichijogumi. Ricky killed everyone in the branch, but he couldn't find Tomo. He had to find this traitor to get the contraband back. On the other side, Seok-do went to the hospital to visit his colleagues injured in the car crash. At this time, a colleague from another police district arrived. It turned out they found a pistol among the stolen goods Seok-do's team seized, and this pistol was their section chief's service weapon. The section chief had gone undercover to investigate the trafficking of the new drug Hyper in their district, but he had been missing for over a week. It seemed he was in grave danger. The colleague also gave Seok-do a clue. The narcotics investigation unit had actually been investigating Hyper for 3 years. Rumor had it their team leader once single-handedly wiped out the White Shark clan that sold contraband, so he had been in charge of the Hyper case. Perhaps contacting them would yield new leads. So, Seok-do went to the narcotics investigation unit, where he met the investigation team leader for the first time. He turned out to be the ruthless Sung Cheol. Sung Cheol received Seok-do politely. Hearing that Seok-do was there about Hyper, he stated that all cases related to Hyper were under investigation, and he couldn't share any relevant information with Seok-do at the moment. But when Seok-do asked about the missing section chief, Sung Cheol's face changed, and his attitude became quite hostile. In reality, that missing section chief had been beaten to death by Sung Cheol himself. Seeing Sung Cheol so unwilling to cooperate, Seok-do got a bit angry. Man Jae, afraid he would cause trouble, forcibly pulled him away. However, Seok-do turned back and handed Sung Cheol a business card, hoping Sung Cheol would call him if there was news. When Sung Cheol looked at the card, he realized it was a delivery card for a Chinese restaurant. It turned out the flustered Seok-do had given the wrong card in his haste. Since he didn't get any useful information here, Seok-do had to find other clues himself. Through information from an informant, he learned that a bar was also selling hyper at night, so he drove over and stopped the bar owner's car. Cho-rong was furious to see his car blocked. He wanted to show off his masculine charm in front of a girl, so he decided to teach Seok-do a lesson. As a result, he was knocked to the ground by Seok-do with one punch and stopped moving. Afterward, Cho-rong told the police everything he knew. He told Seok-do that a Japanese gang leader named Tomo was trafficking contraband in Seoul, and one of his underlings, Yang Ho, often brought people to sell it in his bar. He took Seok-do to his bar. He had a girl lead the way to a group of thugs. Relying on their numbers, the thugs saw there were only 2 cops and decided to attack Seok-do. The result? Seok-do single-handedly took out over a dozen thugs and dragged the cowardly Yang Ho out from behind the bar. He knocked Yang Ho to the ground with just one punch. From Yang Ho, Seok-do also learned of Tomo's current hideout. Meanwhile, Tomo emerged from his hotel room hideout, ready to leave, only to find both ends of the hallway blocked. It was Ricky. At this moment, Seok-do and Man-jae also arrived at the hotel. Driving into the underground parking lot, Seok-do actually saw Tomo in a passing car. He quickly told Man-jae to reverse and block the black car. While he was fighting the Japanese gangsters, a car suddenly rammed into them, knocking Seok-do flying. The car window rolled down. It was Ricky. Seok-do was in agonizing pain and could only watch as the car sped away. Tomo was taken to a desolate pier. Although beaten black and blue, he refused to reveal where the contraband was hidden. He knew that once he talked, he would be killed immediately. Tomo even tried to use the contraband as leverage to get Ricky to release him, but Ricky wasn't swayed by threats and stabbed him to death. Ricky would rather search for it himself than be threatened by anyone. Having lost his lead again, Seok-do went back to interrogate Yang Ho further. Colleagues booked a love hotel nearby to serve as a makeshift interrogation room. Seok-do, who had never been to such a place, sat on the round bed to question Yang Ho. Finally, through Yang Ho's story, the whole picture became clear. It turned out the Ichijogumi in Japan was the organization developing and producing hyper. Headquarters provided the raw materials, and Tomo handled synthesis and sales in Korea. For the past few years, a mysterious figure had been helping Tomo manage distribution channels. Because he and Tomo stole 20 kilograms of contraband from headquarters to start their own operation, Japan sent the hitman Ricky to retrieve it. Now that Tomo was dead, the core suspicion focused on this mysterious figure. Who exactly was he? Just as Seok-do was stumped, something happened again. That night, Sung Cheol's subordinate quietly sneaked into Tomo's office. He smashed open the wall, looking for the hidden contraband. Suddenly, there was noise outside. He opened the door to see a group of people approaching slowly. It was Ricky. Ricky already knew about Sung Cheol. A group of enforcers rushed in. Sung Cheol's subordinate stood no chance and was beaten to a pulp in moments. Realizing that this man was also searching for the contraband, Ricky had no intention of leaving a witness alive. He slashed him to death with a single strike. The next day, arriving at the scene and seeing his brutally murdered subordinate, Sung Cheol was beside himself with rage. Now, not only was the merchandise missing, but his man was dead. And today was the final delivery deadline. Empty-handed, Sung Cheol bit the bullet and took one subordinate to the meeting spot. CEO Bayek was furious seeing Sung Cheol arrive with nothing again. Sung Cheol clashed directly with them. He and his subordinate, just 2 men, managed to take down 7 or 8 of the opponents. He didn't spare CEO Bayek either. He chained the arrogant CEO to a car and brutally beat him to death for slapping him earlier. Ferociously, he knocked on Chairman Jin's car window. He was determined to force this deal through. Meanwhile, Seok-do arrived at Tomo's office. From the officers at the scene, he learned that the dead man was actually one of Sung Cheol's subordinates, and that a large portion of the wall had been dug open as well. The dead cop seemed to be looking for something. Harboring deep suspicions, Seok-do returned to the narcotics investigation unit. He wanted to ask Sung Cheol why his subordinate died in Tomo's office, but Sung Cheol wouldn't come out, sending his men to block Seok-do instead. Facing Seok-do's persistent questioning, an impatient subordinate used foul language, telling Seok-do to get lost and even tried to get physical. Seok-do gently squeezed him, causing him immense pain, but despite the commotion, Sung Cheol stayed in his office. Seok-do released the man and left, but he had a theory. He likely knew who the mysterious figure was. Now, everyone was hunting for those 20 kilograms of contraband. On Seok-do's end, Yang Ho provided another clue. Tomo ran a yacht company, and the goods might be hidden there. Seok-do rushed to the company, but several Japanese men had beaten him to it and were searching the place. These were Ricky's men. A fight was inevitable. Seok-do easily dispatched the blade-wielding Japanese thugs with his fists. After questioning them, he learned that they were also searching for the shipment, but had failed to find it. It seemed Tomo had hidden the contraband very well. Seok-do had no choice but to search again himself. He found a unique access card in a key box that caught his attention. Seok-do and his team boarded a luxury yacht that opened with the card. After searching everywhere, they found a secret room. It was a production lab. Tomo had been synthesizing hyper here. Manjae found a safe in the wall. The contraband had to be inside. Seok-do, mimicking movies, put his ear to the door and carefully turned the dial. Hearing a click, he thought he had it, but it wouldn't open. Frustrated, he ripped the iron door open with brute force. But there was no contraband inside, just a large coil of hemp rope. Seeing the rope, Seok-do had a flash of inspiration. He ran to the deck. A rope was tied to the railing. Seok-do pulled it up with all his might and hauled up a large bag. Tomo had hidden the 20 kilograms of contraband underwater. No wonder no one could find it. Now that Seok-do had the evidence, he needed to confirm if the mysterious partner was Sung Cheol. A brilliant plan formed in his mind. He found Cho-rong again. To avoid spooking the target, he had Cho-rong call Sung Cheol, claiming he had the goods. The cautious Sung Cheol didn't believe it and hung up. Seeing Sung Cheol didn't take the bait, Seok-do had Cho-rong send a photo. This time, seeing the photo of the contraband, Sung Cheol was completely shocked. He hadn't expected the goods were actually in their hands. He called Cho-rong back, asking for terms. Seok-do quickly wrote down the terms, and Cho-rong then told Sung Cheol that the contraband would be given to him, but he would have to be involved in the sale. Sung Cheol agreed. They set the exchange for 1 hour later. After hanging up, Sung Cheol thought for a moment and came up with a bold plan of his own. He walked right into Ricky's hideout. An hour later, Cho-rong arrived at the meeting spot with a large bag and went upstairs as instructed. Seok-do and his team waited downstairs, ready to ambush. Cho-rong nervously opened the door to find a group of people, but sitting there wasn't Sung Cheol, it was Ricky. Realizing he was trapped, Cho-rong turned and screamed. Hearing the trouble, Seok-do rushed upstairs. He saw Ricky again, and the ambushers attacked. Seok-do was knocked unconscious. Triumphant, Ricky ordered the bag opened, but inside wasn't contraband. It was salt. Meanwhile, the colleagues downstairs were wondering why it was so quiet upstairs. Suddenly, a car door opened and Sung Cheol appeared. It was all a setup by Sung Cheol. He checked the bag in Cho-rong's car. Just as he guessed, the real contraband was in the vehicle. He took it all. Ricky finally realized he had been played by Sung Cheol, but he still had Seok-do. Seok-do was taken to Ricky's lair and beaten with metal pipes. They demanded to know where the contraband was. Ricky then got a call from Sung Cheol, boasting that he had the goods. Ricky smashed things in a rage. Suddenly, sounds of fighting came from behind him. In that short time, Seok-do had stood up and taken out the thugs. It turned out Seok-do had faked being unconscious just to follow them and see what was going on. Ricky's top enforcer attacked first, but he was no match for Seok-do. After a few heavy punches, he was out cold. Ricky had to step in himself. Realizing fists wouldn't work, Ricky drew his katana. Seok-do wasn't fazed, even joking by pulling out a small plastic bag. Even as Ichijogumi's top assassin, he was no match for Seok-do. No matter how wildly he slashed, he couldn't hurt him, and his katana was knocked out of his hand in a single move. Without his katana, Ricky stood no chance and was completely overwhelmed by Seok-do. Finally, Seok-do finished Ricky with one punch, but the mission wasn't over. Sung Cheol remained. Sung Cheol had returned to his office, grabbed the gold and money from his safe, and prepared to flee by boat. He got into his car to leave the station, but a black SUV sped in and rammed him head-on. Seok-do stepped out of the vehicle. Sung Cheol could hardly believe how tough this man was to deal with. He grabbed the contraband and ran back to his office. Other police officers tried to stop Seok-do, thinking he was a troublemaker, but he shoved them aside. It was time to face this corrupt cop alone. Good versus evil. The two cops faced off in the office. On his home turf, Sung Cheol initially had the upper hand, pinning Seok-do down and even digging his fingers into his eyes, only to be met with a crushing counterpunch to the ribs from Seok-do. Sung Cheol used everything in the office as a weapon, but against Seok-do's absolute power, it was useless. Seok-do sent Sung Cheol flying with a punch that broke his ribs. At this point, Sung Cheol even tried to tempt Seok-do with an offer of profit. Sung Cheol could only make one last desperate move. He wrapped the handcuffs tightly around Seok-do's neck, but Seok-do suddenly lunged backward, slamming him hard into the door. With his bullets spent, Sung Cheol was out of options. Now, Seok-do began his punishment. He broke Sung Cheol's arm, but the corrupt cop still wouldn't yield. Seok-do delivered a final punch that silenced Sung Cheol for good. Just as the fight ended, Tai-soo arrived with the team. Seok-do walked down the street alone again. Heroes are always lonely, But his story is far from over. 3 years later, a yellow Porsche drove down the street. A long-haired man with sunglasses and a Gucci bag stepped out. It was Yi-soo. Just as he was scolding his subordinates, his car horn started honking non-stop. Someone seemed to be messing with his car. Yi-soo was about to curse when the man turned around. It was his nemesis, Seok-do. Yi-soo stood frozen. He was about to be dragged into working for this guy again.